Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, March 28th, 2019. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Almost to the end of the month, coming up here on the 1st of April. So everybody has to be on guard for hoax stories. It seems to be something we have to go through every year here on the internet. Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about today. There's a lot going on here. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and opinions. Over at the United Nations Security Council, they had a meeting to discuss this issue of Israel's sovereignty on Golan, and 14 out of the 15 UN Security Council member states condemned it. The only one that was in favor of it was, of course, the United States. And interestingly enough, in a display of utter arrogance, just as the debate began at the Security Council chamber, Israel launched an air attack against what they claim is an Iranian ammunition depot near Aleppo in Syria. So they went back on in, pounding on Syria here. Now, Syria is saying they hit a civilian airport, and they're reporting that 7 people are dead. Syrian air defenses apparently did intercept a number of the missiles before they reached their targets. So apparently explosions were heard all around the government-controlled area of Sheikh Najjar, which is an industrial zone in the northeastern countryside of Aleppo. So Israel is doing what Israel likes to do. And I don't think the timing was a coincidence. I think this was just Israel thumbing its nose at the UN Security Council that they can't do anything. As long as the United States has that permanent veto, the Security Council is totally hamstrung. They're impotent, to put it politely. At the moment, there seems to be a tenuous ceasefire holding between Gaza and Israel, mostly due to Egyptian efforts. They're engaging in shuttle diplomacy, basically flying back and forth between, shuttling back and forth, rather, between Gaza Strip and Israel through the Erez crossing. Gaza's airport is no longer functional. And they're trying to calm everything down, but I don't think Netanyahu wants things calmed down. I think he sees all of this bombing and violence and blood is good for his re-election campaign. So the Hamas chief came on out and says, Israel got the message after a morning of tense calm. I wouldn't be quite that arrogant. This is from Ismail Haniyeh, whose headquarters got struck by Israel just the other day here. We are hearing that Hamas is not going to cancel the 1-year anniversary of the Great March of Return at the Gaza fence, despite threats coming in from Israel. So good for them for having the courage. Unfortunately, I'm expecting Israel will do something really bad about it. And Israel's already cranking up the anti-Palestine, anti-Gaza, anti-Great March of Return propaganda. Oh, there never was such a thing as Palestine. It was completely made up by a bunch of anti-Semites. You know, the usual stuff that we get from that. Pardon me. And so Benny Gantz, unfortunately, is also a hardliner. So even if Netanyahu loses his election, it's not going to improve things for the Palestinians on the West Bank or in Gaza. All right, rights groups, about 20 different Palestinian rights groups, both regional and international, are urging the United Nations to protect the Gazans who participate in the anniversary of the Great March of Return protest this coming Saturday. Well, if the UN's going to do something, they better be moving like right now because of the time it's going to take to get there and get in there. And of course, because Israel controls all access to Gaza, the UN could show up there and Israel could say, no, you can't go on in there, as they've done to so many other rights groups here. So basically, there was this letter sent to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, and the groups warned that Israel will once again resort to lethal and other excessive force, including live ammunition, to suppress the protests. We urge the United Nations to take meaningful action to prevent further unnecessary loss of life and injury by the Israeli occupying forces, which entails individual criminal responsibility and may amount to international crimes. They then went on to issue an 11-point list of recommendations for the UN, including beefing up monitoring of Israel's use of force on the protests, demanding accountability, and making sure that Israel adheres to the Geneva Convention. Well, Israel has already answered that last one. Israel does not see their abuse of the Palestinians as a war and has stated the Geneva Convention doesn't apply. We're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. All the way back in 1917, there was this declaration issued by then British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour, who viewed with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home of the Jewish people. And this was the Balfour Declaration, was 67 words long, and we're still feeling the effects of it today. And so now you have Donald Trump signing an official proclamation recognizing Israel's sovereignty over the occupied Syrian Golan Heights. Now, here is the kicker. Neither the former British Foreign Secretary or the current U.S. President actually have the right to dispose of that land. They're giving away land that was never theirs to dispose of. So a lot of people are starting to equate Trump's decision with another Balfour Declaration, which, of course, Israel will seize on, whether it's legitimate or not, to say, see. Now, Syria's ambassador to the United Nations has lashed out at President Trump's recognition of Israeli sovereignty over the occupied Golan Heights, describing the move as part of a criminal project aimed at prolonging chaos and destruction in the region. He then went on to say, if you want to give Israel more land, why not give them North and South Carolina? Proving that the Syrians do have a sense of humor. Okay. Now, Israel's getting ready to triple the number of Jewish settlers in the Golan Heights to try and create a Jewish majority in the occupied Syrian territory. And they're also trying to basically say, well, with Trump's recognition, Syria is no longer occupied, and therefore all this boycott, divestment sanctions no longer applies to the Golan, and investors can come on in and invest in Israeli companies in the Golan, and you can buy Golan-produced products. Somehow I don't think that's going to work. I don't think people are really falling for this one here. Article coming out of Russia today, the road to the next war begins in the Golan. And they're basically drawing a parallel between Trump's self-serving recognition of Israel's illegal annexation of the Golan and how it's taken a wrong turn. And they're equating it with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. which took a wrong turn in Sarajevo, and the world found itself on the road to World War I. Now, Netanyahu is still out there insisting that they captured the Golan in a defensive war. But that's not what happened. Israel struck first. They came up with this idea of the preemptive war. We know they're getting ready to attack us, so we have to attack first. And they basically launched these sneak attacks on Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. Okay. Over at the refugee camp in Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces shot and killed an 18-year-old Palestinian medic who was wearing a medic's vest trying to save injured protesters in the Daisha refugee camp. So Israel's just going to keep on doing what they're doing. Over in Jordan, King Abdullah II has announced that Jerusalem and the future of Palestine are red lines for Jordan. And Jordan is rejecting the idea of finding an alternative homeland for the Palestinians. Now, Palestine is the homeland of the Palestinians. The United Nations partition plan was going to carve off part of it to be Israel. Israel's not happy with that. They want all of it, and they want the Palestinians to go someplace else. And Israel has been talking about the forced displacement, the forced relocation of all Palestinians for years now. And over in Jordan, the king is saying, no, we're not going to accept that. Partly because Israel is saying Jordan should take the Palestinians in. Over in Syria, there's been a U.S.-led coalition bombing in al-Baghouz, and apparently they killed at least 3,000 people and made the town look like they devastated it. It's described as post-apocalyptic. Okay, a few days ago, Mike Pompeo was in Lebanon, had a big meeting trying to get Lebanon to come on board with this coalition against Iran. And after Pompeo left, Lebanon basically said it didn't change anything, that Pompeo was just yet another American official biased toward Israel who has to come on in and have his say. But apparently, Lebanon is now starting to cozy up to Russia out of concerns that Israel may be getting ready to attack them again. And that might not be a bad idea, looking at how effective Russia was at stopping the U.S. takeover of Syria. Although it looks like the U.S. is getting ready to try again. They've given up the idea of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Now they're going back to saying, yes, we have to get Assad. Why? What has Assad done to the United States of America? When did Syria attack the United States of America? The answer is they haven't. And if you look back at all of these wars over the last 18 years, they're all against countries that have done absolutely nothing to the United States and the American people. They represent economic threats or economic opportunities. It's all about the money. It's all about the oil. They don't want you to realize that because they're still trying to convince you to spend your money on these wars to make these oil companies rich. They're still trying to convince you to send your sons and eventually your daughters into these combat zones to make the oil companies richer. Now, Mike Pompeo, fresh from his faceplant over in Lebanon, is saying that Washington, together with its allies at NATO, would unveil a fresh series of actions against Russia next week in response to Moscow's involvement in Ukraine, and in particular in the Kerch Strait standoff. And Pompeo said, when the Russians captured sailors in the Sea of Azov, we've done a great deal of work to try and push against that. We need to do more. Okay, Mike, here's your rifle, and here's your parachute. Go have fun. Now, all of this, of course, ignores the fact that the United States has been involved in Ukraine. The United States was behind that coup d'etat that ousted Yanukovych and installed puppet Poroshenko. But the United States has this attitude that, our meddling is good and their meddling is bad. And that's all you dumb American voters need to know. So they're out there. Now, as far as the Kerch Strait is concerned, again, that was an intentional provocation. Ukraine was allowed to transit the strait and access the Azov Sea. There were just some rules that had to be followed, which was prior notification, because that channel is very narrow and too many ships going through it at the same time can erode it. And these ships that transited the Kerch Strait into the Azov Sea didn't follow the rules. They didn't make an application. They didn't say they were coming. They just charged on through. Sort of Ukraine's version of a freedom of navigation exercise, and they got caught. And proving once again that it really is a world war and no place is safe. Over in Algeria, there is major unrest. It's reaching the boiling point. There have been weeks of protests from the opposition trying to block the possible re-election of longtime President Bouteflika. And there doesn't seem to be a resolution within reach. Even after the sudden withdrawal by Bouteflika from the new elections, the demonstrations are continuing. Opposition and regime insiders still feel the old guard is clinging to power, but apparently the Algerian army has stepped into the fray, urging the removal of the current president. And that's not the only place. The United States is stoking the Democratic Republic of the Congo's deep state civil war, which means it's not really a civil war. And they're doing it to contain China. We can't compete with China in Africa, so we have to contain them. That's really what's behind all these wars. The United States has lost its ability to compete with places like Russia and China in terms of manufacturing, economics. And so now they're trying to build a wall to wall off Russia and China and say, this part of Earth is ours. They'll do business with us because they don't have a choice. Alrighty. Turning over to Venezuela, there's an interesting development. Just off the coast of Venezuela is an island called Curacao. And it's actually property of the Netherlands. And the Netherlands has now granted the United States permission to use that island. The U.S. is saying it's for humanitarian assistance, but obviously they could use it as a springboard for military intervention, which means it's going to have to be built up a little bit. So Maria Zakharova was giving a briefing from the Russian Foreign Ministry and said, we've taken note of the agreement signed between the Netherlands and the United States on using the infrastructures of the Curacao Island for humanitarian supplies to Venezuela. At first sight, this agreement merely opens access for U.S. officials to Curacao's infrastructures exclusively for providing humanitarian aid. But as it turned out, this deal does not rule out the possibility of using not only civilian, but other means of delivery. Of what type? Clearly military ones. So with the coup having fizzled, it does look like the U.S. is going to go into Venezuela. And it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be another quagmire like Afghanistan and like Syria, or it's going to turn into another Vietnam. Now, as we reported earlier in the week, Mike Pompeo was out there demanding that Russia get out of Venezuela. You're not allowed to meddle in foreign countries on this side of the world. Only we're allowed to meddle in countries on this side of the world, and your side of the world too, just so we understand the rules that we just made up here. And Russia has responded saying, well, you get out of Syria first, because the U.S. has gone back on its promise to leave Syria once ISIS and Al-Qaeda were defeated. And the U.S. is behaving like a cowboy in the Louvre, according to Maria Zakharova. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but in context, it's bad. Meanwhile, the United States is going around the world to various international bodies and arm twisting them to basically push Maduro's envoys off and try and bring Guaido's envoys on. This is a continuation of this PR campaign that started with Trump having Guaido's wife to the White House. You know, if we all play act like Guaido's the president, then magically, poof, he's going to be the president. But Maduro has dug in, and he's determined to stay. And that means war is coming here. All right, we're coming up here on a commercial break, and we'll be back after these words from our sponsors. So stay tuned. We'll be right here.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And once again, I want to start off by saying a heartfelt thank you to everybody who has donated to Republic Broadcasting and to whatreallyhappened.com, because we would not be here without you. That's just the absolute truth here. And right now, all of us, the Riveros Rangers, the Republicanites, whatever we want to call ourselves here, we have to be feeling pretty butch right now with the release of the Mueller report, because the corporate media, who've got all this money to spend, they got it flat out wrong. They wanted to get it wrong. This was not an accident. It was not a mistake. It was not an error. They were out there just slinging bovine excrement at the American people. And we here in the independent media, at Republic Broadcasting, at whatreallyhappened.com, we got it right. And it's important we get that message out. Now, we don't want to be boastful and bragging, and we don't want to be seen as vindictive, but it's important to get that message out to the American people. The corporate media was wrong. The independent media was right. And that's an important message for everybody to get out. So, once again, if you would like to support Republic Broadcasting, the postal address to send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. The network thanks you. I've just gotten an email from somebody who says that they are not able to see my YouTube feed. And I would not be surprised if they were blocking me, but unfortunately I don't have enough resources here to open up the video thing and check on it. So we'll get back to that later. All right, let's go to the phones. Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I wanted to talk about Venezuela, but Mike, I give Trump 0 weeks. I know you give him 2 weeks time before you change your mind on him again. But I gave up on him. I think you're going to be disappointed.
I haven't changed my mind on him. I'm saying I'm giving him 2 weeks to change my mind.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're disappointed in him, but in 2 weeks, if he does something, then maybe we'll rethink about. I can go with that. But hey, Mike, did you see Guaido's wife? She's like whiter than Mike Pence.
Yeah, I did. I did notice that. I did notice that.
Is she in an indigenous population there? Because I know there's two sets of people there, right?
I'm not really sure. I mean, you know, the history of South America has been all these different groups going on in there. There was, you know, the Aztecs, the Incas, then the Spanish came on in, then the British tried to get involved there. I mean, it's a mishmash.
Hey, Mike, I don't know if you heard reports, though these are rumors that there's Turkey military advisors in Venezuela, because remember Erdogan called Maduro his brother.
Well, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised at all that Turkey's going to be helping. We could see a major, shall we say, lineup behind Venezuela against the United States. Venezuela could actually be the flashpoint for where the world war gets real. Oh, and by the way, I'm already getting emails and comments from the control room. The YouTube feed is working. Whoever sent me this email, it's obviously a problem with their machine. So thank you for checking for me. Yeah, Venezuela, we're going to lose this one. That's the part that is so frustrating and angering to me. We didn't win in Afghanistan. We didn't win in Syria. We didn't really win in Iraq. We're just throwing weight around the world. We're a dying empire lashing out, trying to remind everybody that we still are an empire.
Hey, Mike, did you see Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Everybody voted for this. It's called the Venezuela Something Act or something. I don't know if you can look up if anybody knows. It's some kind of act that Congress passed or Senate about Venezuela, like they're a threat to our national security, and they all voted for it. So that
How is Venezuela a threat to our national security? Okay, they don't really have much of a navy. They don't have much of an air force. They certainly don't have long-range missiles and nuclear warheads. And Maduro, again, Venezuela's history is rather devoid of wars.
I just thought it blew my mind when Mike, I think it was Pompeo who said like that they're in basically our hemisphere, and we're trying to bring democracy and human rights.
Old one
democracy
again.
And this other.
There has never been a democracy that resulted from a U.S. intervention. There are always dictatorships like Pinochet, the Shah of Iran, and Poroshenko for that matter. Anyway, listen, we got to take a break for commercials. Do you have more, Dustin?
No, Mike, have a good show.
All right, thanks a lot. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds, up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And I found what Dustin was talking about. It's called the Russia-Venezuelan Threat Mitigation Act. And it sailed through the House, was introduced by Debbie Wasserman Schultz here. And basically, here's an interesting excerpt. The bill would require the president to monitor the risk of Russian acquisition of Venezuela's Citgo assets in the United States, as well as impose a visa ban for any individuals working on behalf of the Russian government in direct support of Venezuelan security forces. Citgo, the oil company. It's about the oil again. Now, if the United States was worried about who's got control of the Citgo assets, they should just go make a deal with Venezuela. But they can't. They're out of money. People don't trust the dollar anymore. This nation has been bankrupted with all these wars. We can't compete economically. We can't compete in manufacturing. Certainly after these massive floods in the Midwest, we can't compete agriculturally. So they resort to war. And that's what's going on here. All right, we're going to take another phone call. Jim in Chicago. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. A couple things. Donald Trump has reached a new low. He wants to take federal funding from the Special Olympics and from blind people, but yet and still he continues to give $600 million a year to Planned Parenthood. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with you. That's appalling. I mean, blind people do need the help. The Special Olympics are more of a celebration. It's not an essential service, but I think it's a nice thing to do. As far as Planned Parenthood, we're seeing this, how can I put it, extreme view that all pregnant women who are American citizens, I guess, need to get abortions right up to the moment of birth. And again, it's like somebody is reshaping the demographics of this country. They want all the white people to go away, and they want the United States of America browned so it can blend with the rest of the world.
Well, didn't Donald Trump say during his campaign that he was going to get rid of Planned Parenthood funding?
Yes, he did. He said a lot of things during the campaign that have not come to pass, which is why I am very, very disappointed in him.
Right. Well, that's it, Michael. You take care.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open. Getting on back to Venezuela, there is a new development. Juan Guaido has been banned from government service for 15 years over apparently some discrepancies in his personal financial disclosures. And apparently Guaido was spending money that he had no particular explanation of where it came from. And so he's basically, Venezuela's authorities have ruled the maximum punishment allowable by law. He's banned from government service for 15 years. So he can't be a president, interim or otherwise. Of course, that's not going to stop the United States. Over in France, things are really sadly heating up, and there's a lot of focus that is being put on the 73-year-old activist Genevieve Leguay, who was there with the yellow vests, and the police charged them. She got knocked over, fractured her skull, and it was an act of willful violence on the part of the police. Macron's public statement on there saying, well, maybe you'll gain wisdom because when one is fragile, one shouldn't be in these prohibited areas. That triggered a backlash as well. And so the question is being asked, and it's a legitimate question. Will Macron's escalation of violence against the yellow vests make them go away, or will it just make the situation explode? And I tend to think, on the basis of history, it might be the latter one. Because you reach a certain critical mass of the population that have had enough and can't take any more. And you reach a point where everything the government does to try and contain the situation only makes matters worse. And I think Macron has reached that point. All right, so let's talk about our domestic politics here. Laura Ingraham had a wonderful little video segment here, the 5 stages of Democrat grief. And we're seeing it, denial, bargaining, so forth and so on, mostly denial at this point. And it's rather humorous to think about, but that's exactly what's going on. The Democrats, the liberals in general, they're having to deal with this tragedy of the Mueller report. And they just invested so much of their lives, their reputations, their careers, that the Mueller report was going to get Trump. We were finally going to get Trump. By golly, this is it. We, get ready to pop the champagne corks. Over in Rolling Stone, Matt Taibbi has an article saying that as the Mueller probe ends, new Russiagate myths begin. And he's commenting about the fact that already we're seeing these accusations that Mueller, who had been the darling of the Democrats, he was their knight in shining armor. He was going to get Trump. Oh, he must have sold out. He's a closet conservative, and he didn't want to find anything. So they're on the attack against him. Now, Dan Bongino is talking about Spygate, Obama, Mueller, and the biggest spy scandal in American history, and he's absolutely right. He's got a comment, this makes Watergate look like romper room, and he's right. This is the biggest scandal to hit the government since Watergate. We have a sitting American president spying on a presidential candidate to help another candidate in his own party. And Brennan has already outed Obama. He was on CNN and he said this went all the way right up to Obama, who knew what was going on and was keeping tabs on the situation. And all Trump did was win an election. And the massive machinery of the federal government was turned on him. This happened. This really did happen. Story coming out of the economiccollapseblog.com, and we've mentioned this before, but it bears repeating again. The narrative that eventually led to the Mueller investigation basically was hatched within 24 hours of Hillary Clinton's 2016 loss. And that's what resulted in this 675-day Mueller investigation. And Hillary just couldn't accept that she'd lost. They weren't ready to give up yet. They needed a plan to delegitimize the election results and install Hillary in the Oval Office. And they decided on this plan to blame Russia for Hillary's loss. And that included pushing the narrative the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians to defeat Clinton. The Russians stole the election on behalf of Donald Trump. And therefore, Trump had to be removed and the White House given to Hillary Clinton. They apparently really thought that was going to work. And they've been pushing that story for over 2 years, and it went down in flames on Monday. And you think about all the lives that were ruined, all the people who were bankrupted by legal fees, all the reputations that were destroyed, not to mention our relations with Russia seriously wrecked because Hillary couldn't accept that she was just a lousy candidate and people didn't like her. Now you talk about somebody who is so self-centered that they would do something like that, and all the rest of that happened, including the possibility of war with Russia. Fair price to pay for Hillary's one last shot at that Oval Office. She can't let go of it. And I do think she's going to step in for 2020. Okay, there is a letter from House Intelligence Committee Republicans calling for Adam Schiff's resignation. Actually, right now, there's a lot of people calling for Adam Schiff's resignation, including Newt Gingrich, who says this was an attempted coup d'etat. And that's exactly what it was. It was an attempted coup d'etat. And by the way, now that this is over, okay, I would like to send a respectful message to the United States Secret Service and to Trump's protective detail. Be extra vigilant and careful. Because the people who were behind this coup d'etat, I don't think they've given up. And the next step past this one is the Kennedy approach. So please be very, very careful of our commander-in-chief. Apparently, over at the Intelligence Committee, Representative Turner was making introductory remarks and Adam Schiff cut his microphone. So it's getting a little testy over there. Rand Paul is out there saying that the former Obama CIA chief promoted this now discredited dossier, and he's demanding an investigation of the Obama team. Absolutely need to get all of these people under oath, get them under subpoena if necessary. James Clapper, John Brennan, Susan Rice, and many others. I would add Loretta Lynch and James Comey to that list. They were all part of this. They were all part of this effort to unseat a legitimately elected United States president. And as much as I'm disappointed in Donald Trump, I defend the fact that he is the elected president. And I'm absolutely appalled at these people who just took it upon themselves to try and figure out a way to kick him out of office. So, now one of the things that's coming out from the Mueller report is that Mueller went well beyond the kind of bare-bones summary required by the Justice Department regulation governing his appointment. In other words, he's just loaded this up with all kinds of stuff, trying to make it look like he actually accomplished something over the last 2+ years. Okay. So over on Twitter, the tweets are flying here. And George Papadopoulos basically put out a tweet saying that it definitely rings true for our good friends from the infamous Obama administration now that Trump has said he will declassify the FISA documents in the George Papadopoulos case. And if Comey wasn't sweating before, he will be after he sees this tweet from Papadopoulos. Okay. Alexander Downer, Stephen Halpert, Joseph Mifsud, and Comey's corrupt team had one thing in common. They made the foolish mistake to illicitly spy on me and never expected their methods and tactics would be revealed. That all changes now with the president declassifying my FISA case. Now, we need to see what William Barr is going to do. Is he really going to be an attorney general, or is he another in a long line of totally co-opted, corrupted, compromised AGs like Loretta Lynch and James Comey were here? But Trump is out there saying that there will be indictments of James Comey, McCabe, and Strzok for these criminal acts leading to the Mueller probe. And I hope he means it. I hope he's going to put on those presidential brass knuckles. Because right now he's got a window of opportunity. The American people understand Trump was the victim here. He wasn't the bad guy. He was the victim. And they're standing with him. And now's the time for Trump to really keep his promise about draining that swamp. Now, Devin Nunes is sending a criminal referral to the Department of Justice over Spygate. That's going to happen next week. And it will detail multiple referrals on a number of different crimes, including leaking classified information as part of his investigation into misconduct at the Justice Department and the FBI. And we know that in addition to Hillary Clinton, there were some other people who were leaking classified information to the media. That's still a Title 18 violation. And Nunes said it's one criminal referral, but with multiple referrals on a number of different crimes. And he says we're going to have some leakers out there for sure. We're going to reach the point where they're going to start turning on each other, pointing fingers on each other, rushing to make a deal, because the first one to make a deal with prosecutors is going to get the best deal possible. And the ones who are last to the table, they're going to get nothing. Maria Zakharova came out with a comment on the Mueller report saying that Western journalists are riffraff, totally to blame for the Russia hoax. And when she's right, she's right. They are riffraff. They're prostitutes. They're correspondents. And they got it wrong. And that is a message that we have to get out to the people of America over the coming weeks. For 2 years, the corporate media lied to you. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an error. It wasn't bad intelligence. It was a flat-out lie. And the independent media was getting the truth out. Now, meanwhile, Eric Swalwell is still standing by his claim that the dossier is absolute fact. It's absolute fact. And he's still saying Trump is a Russian agent and he should be removed here. And Swalwell, you know, was out there being interviewed, and he's waving that little dossier around saying, what part of this has been disproven? And the response to that should be, what part of it has been proven? It's nothing but allegations in there. There's nothing to substantiate any of the claims made in it. And I don't know what world Swalwell lives in, but in the United States of America, you presume innocence until proof of guilt in the face of an accusation or allegation. And even the President of the United States gets that presumption of innocence. Eric. All right, we're coming up here on another commercial break, and I'm going to step away for a while. We'll be right back after these few words.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington too. You know, it makes me wonder, what's a guy on Main Street to do? I've always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy, but I must admit lately I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the seven seas. Yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're still talking about the fallout from the Mueller report, otherwise known as the Democrats' Hindenburg, or the Mueller-Tanic, I guess we could call it that one. I think we're going to call it Russia Gate. That's the name we're going to use on that one. Now, as I mentioned earlier, looking at this article from Matt Taibbi, the narrative is now changing to the fact that Mueller didn't do a good job, and the latest variation on that is coming from Nancy Pelosi, saying that Attorney General William Barr is arrogant to think we would accept his interpretation of the Mueller report. So Nancy Pelosi is now trying to say, well, whether or not there was collusion depends on how you interpret the report. And she's now out there saying, release the report, release the report. Now, that's kind of odd because she's on video saying that maybe it's time to move on past this and start focusing on health care, because there's a big fight gearing up over Obamacare. And as far as Adam Schiff is concerned, he's still out there saying there's ample evidence of collusion in plain sight. And he's raising on a busted flush. Okay, Adam, show us your evidence of collusion. Apparently some of his associates in Congress are starting to mock him on that one. Over at Fox News, their new contributor, Donna Brazile, was asked a simple yes or no question regarding what's going on. And she basically was asked, do you now accept the president as the legitimate president of the United States, having won the 2016 election fair and square? And it should be yes or no. But instead, Donna Brazile launched off on how they were victims, how Brazil and others were victims of Trump's attacks during the 2016 election cycle. She's refusing to answer one way or the other. So they still can't let go of it. Out in Hollywood, La La Land, Rosanna Arquette basically came on out saying Trump's America is a sick dictatorship of normalized racism, rape, mass killings, and pedophilia. Actually, sounds like she's describing Hollywood to me. But anyway, Chris Evans is out there saying that he really hopes NFL star Tom Brady is not a Trump supporter. Chris Evans said he might have to cut ties with the quarterback as a fan of the president, and he might even refuse to play him in an upcoming biopic. They're going to make a movie about Tom Brady. Chris Evans apparently is in the running to play that role. He's saying he may just walk away from it if Tom Brady is a fan of Donald Trump. Silly. We'll be right back after these few words.
you know there is an ongoing war right here in America? Are you aware that U.S. citizens have been classified as enemies of the state since 1933? Have you recognized that our entire government is really a vast network of interlocking corporations engaged in commerce? Look up Title 28, Section 3002. Tune in to In Defense of Humanity on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. Find out what's really going on and learn how to protect yourself and your family as flesh and blood men and women living in a corporate reality.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And I've been getting a whole bunch of these emails from LinkedIn. Congratulations on your work anniversary and everything. And finally, it dawned on me. Today is the 25th birthday of What Really Happened. Now, it wasn't called What Really Happened for the entire 25 years. It had other names like Rancho Runamucka. But, yeah, quarter of a century. Happy birthday to me. Happy birthday to me. Have to get a Twinkie and a candle later on today, I think. Okay, so Ann Coulter's out with an article called Hold the Pulitzers. And Ann Coulter, I blow hot and cold on her. Sometimes I love what she says and sometimes I don't. But she's bang on spot with this one. She's saying, hold the Pulitzers. And saying that really the only people surprised that Mueller's report didn't find any collusion were the consumers of corporate media. And how for the last 2 years, TVs, newspaper, magazines just push Russia collusion, Russia collusion, Russia collusion, trying to reverse the outcome of the 2016 election. And the corporate media, of course, we saw this with Zucker over at CNN. No, we were doing the job we're supposed to be doing, reporting the news as we saw it. They're not going to apologize. They're not going to back off here. And so we're going to have to hold them to the fire. We're going to have to shame them publicly. We're going to have to keep reminding the American people of how they got lied to about Russiagate or Russiagate Gate. Not to mention Saddam's nuclear weapons and Assad's sarin gas. This is a wake-up call. It may even be a watershed moment for the American people's awareness of just what's going on here. And speaking of the Pulitzers, over the last 2 years, quite a few Pulitzer Prizes were given out for stories written about Trump-Russia collusion. And I'm wondering if the Pulitzer organization is just going to let them sit and see its reputation dragged down the way the Nobel Peace Prize has been, or if they're going to say, sorry, you got to turn those back in. Now, Andrew McCarthy is out there saying, how long has Mueller known there was no Trump-Russia collusion? Well, we got the answer for that earlier this week. They knew last August. And they sat on that so that the Democrats could campaign on Russiagate for the midterms. Now, there's election meddling for you. And that's another part of this huge Russiagate scandal. Mueller knew last August the president was innocent and said nothing. Now, getting back over to the corporate media, the ratings on corporate media, the news channels rather, are plunging. And in some cases, down by half. Rachel Maddow's show had been number 1 in cable news. It's now number 6. The only news network that's doing well is Fox News. And even though it has perceptibly shifted leftward, it still has the trust of a lot of its viewers. And people apparently turned off CNN. They're going back to Fox News. Good for Fox News. Story coming out of Investment Watch blog. Pelosi gives the order for the media to shift all coverage from the fake Russia investigation to healthcare, and the corporate media obeys and flips instantly. And by the way, they're still being forced to cover this collapse of the Russian investigation. They can't just stop talking about it. It just makes them look worse. Alan Dershowitz is a very well-known man. His credentials are impeccable. He became the youngest full professor of law at Harvard Law School in the 60s. And so outlets like CNN have used him as an expert on legal matters over the years. But Dershowitz has now gone public saying CNN essentially banned him for refusing to push the narrative that Donald Trump schemed with Russia to get elected. And Dershowitz basically was on Fox News Monday, and he said CNN wouldn't have me on the air because they want a one-sided presentation. And everybody who watched CNN was shocked by the conclusions, which is exactly what Ann Coulter was saying. I think there's one representative out there, I saw this the other day, saying, no, there was Trump-Russia collusion. I saw it on TV. It has to be true. I saw it on TV. No, TV does not feed you the truth. And there are a lot of articles that are coming on out, probably ought to be saved. This one's from thefederalist.com. 61 hacks who peddled Russian collusion and should never be trusted again. Emphasis on the word never. There were no secret meetings between Kremlin courtiers and former Trump campaign manager advisor Carter Page. There was no trip to Prague by Michael Cohen. No quid pro quo election assistance for the lifting of sanctions. There was no there. It's amazing. Steele just made it all up, and he got paid good money to do it. And that's what's tragic about our current society. Liars get paid good money to lie. People who are telling the truth just barely scraping by, looking for spare change under the seat cushions here. Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. We're still talking about the fallout from Monday's crash and burn of the Russiagate theory, the Russiagate hoax. Another article, this one over on dailycaller.com, we are naming and shaming the absolute worst reporters on the Russian collusion conspiracy theory. And we do need to have these names saved and prominently displayed someplace permanently, because the collapse of the hoax has dealt a major blow to a huge swath of the media. And there were a lot of individual anchors and reporters who bet their careers and their reputations that Donald Trump conspired with Russia to steal the 2016 elections. And these correspondents and prostitutes authored fake stories, gave breathless coverage to the alleged scandal, and they misled the public. The media lied. The corporate media lied. That's the message that has to go on out. Now, we'll see what corporate media management is going to start doing about this, if they're going to start letting some of these people go, bring in some new blood and say, well, those were the old liars, and these are the new liars, and you should trust them. I do know they're going to be coming after the independent media. They're going to try and find some way to silence us because we are now an embarrassment to them. We humiliated them. On a shoestring budget, we humiliated them. Okay, let's take another phone call. Charlie in Los Angeles, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
Doing fine.
You know, I really hate to say it, but I think I kind of like Mueller better than Trump, because Mueller was a captain in the Marine Corps. He saw combat in Vietnam. Trump was a draft dodger. And I see Trump as just part of the Jewish mafia that just beat the rap. I mean, nobody ever turns on the Jewish mafia and lives to tell about it. So whether they had evidence against him, even let's say they had evidence against him, nobody would turn on him. The last person that turned on the Jewish mafia was Abraham Rellis, and he went out the 7th floor of the Half Moon Hotel in Coney
Okay,
Island.
let me guess. Let me guess. This is another one of those Mueller found crimes but hid them shill calls, isn't it?
No, I'm just saying. Look, I'm just saying as I like Mueller better. Maybe they didn't have anything. Maybe they did, but my experience tells me that in all likelihood, Trump just beat the rap.
Okay,
I mean,
what is your experience? What is your experience? How many years have you had? What is your experience? How many years were you in the Department of Justice?
My experience is with the Nevada Gaming Commission.
Oh, the Nevada
Mr.
Gaming
Trump
Commission.
couldn't own a casino in Nevada.
Yeah, and
Mr.
that's
Trump
going to
could not
qualify
own a
you to
casino in
determine what's
Nevada.
going on at the Department of Justice. Okay, Charlie, I've been expecting calls like this. I commented on them earlier in the show. Thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go. Yeah, that's the new spin. You know, Mueller actually found crimes, but he hid them. He covered them up. He made a deal. He got blackmailed. It's, again, Laura Ingram's The 5 Stages of Democrat Denial. Okay, as you're probably already aware, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal died in the Senate. Unanimously voted down. Not a single senator voted for it. The Democrat senators voted present. So even in her own party, she couldn't get a single vote. And she's just gone absolutely ballistic. How terrible, you know, it's the end of the world. We only have 12 years left before the world is going to end, blah, 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 which we've been hearing from the ClimateGate people for a huge, long time. Over at MSNBC, Chris Hayes is out there demanding, don't you make jokes about the Green New Deal. This is serious stuff. We're out to save the world here. Okay, apparently Stacey Abrams has made it clear that she has no intentions to run as Joe Biden's vice presidential pick. And apparently the comment was made that black women aren't your hood ornament. She also said, you don't run for second place. By the way, do you remember Stacey Abrams back in 2016 when she made that speech about respecting the outcome of an election? She still won't concede the Georgia gubernatorial race. So let's talk about the Smollett case, because this is just getting more and more ridiculous. Trump has asked the FBI and the Department of Justice to take a look. Apparently, a lot of documents were leaked out by the Chicago police before the judge was able to seal the case. Now the judge is saying the sealing was a mistake. They're going to unseal the file. And so the FBI and Department of Justice are going to investigate just how it is that these 16 felony charges against Jussie Smollett were dismissed. And remember, you had these two Nigerian-born brothers caught on surveillance camera buying ski masks and red hats, MAGA hats, were ready to testify that Smollett paid them $3,500 each to stage the attack, and that the 36-year-old actor was also behind a threatening letter. He sent it to himself. Now, prosecuting attorney Kim Foxx is saying Smollett would have been convicted at trial. Yeah, they had those two Nigerian brothers. It was a slam dunk. She's now claiming that dropping the charges was an alternative form of prosecution because Jussie's going to do some community service and he forfeits his $10,000 bond. Yeah, that'll teach him here. Jussie Smollett's lawyer, Tina Glandian, is just making things worse. Because, you know, Jussie Smollett is still out there saying that his recollection is these two white guys in Make America Great Again hats attacked him. That he didn't make it up, he didn't fake it, he's still pushing that story. And given that we have these two Nigerians who are saying, yeah, we're the ones who beat him up, we were paid by him to do it. So Tina Glandian is saying, well, maybe they wore whiteface. Maybe these two black guys put on white face, white makeup, and apparently there's an old photo of one of them wearing white makeup to play the Joker, and that's her proof they could have done that. Well, this is called hoisting with your own petard, because Tina, if you are admitting that these two black guys beat up Jussie Smollett, then the whole white supremacist Trump supporter narrative goes down the shredder, you know, right after Russiagate. Tina is saying they want to sue the Chicago police. They're saying that what the Chicago police did to Jussie was even worse than the beating. Well, considering that the beating was faked, that's not hard to say. All right, let's talk about some economic news now. Mexico has become a net oil importer, showing how oil supplies are tightening up around the world. Over in Ukraine, there's a bit of a panic here because new routes are coming online that will bring oil and gas from Russia to Europe that do not pass through Ukraine. Now, Ukraine has been helping itself to oil and gas from that pipeline through which Russia delivers oil and gas to Europe, and they haven't been paying for it. And Russia, understandably, wants to shut them off, but they haven't done so because they don't want to harm Europe. But when these other pipelines come online, it's going to be a different story. This is one of the reasons why the United States is screaming about Nord Stream 2, because they understand when Nord Stream 2 is completed, Ukraine is going to be without any energy at all. All right, let's take a phone call here from Tony in Puerto Rico. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hello, Mike. You can say that Vladimir Putin is a better chess player than Donald Trump. Am I correct?
I would presume so. I mean, chess is part of the culture in Russia, and I imagine that Putin is very, very good at it. I don't even know if Trump plays chess, but the American culture is more about games of bluffing, like, you know, hearts and poker and things like that.
What I'm trying to say, Mikey, I'm talking about in the international stage.
Well, one has a bearing on the other because one has a bearing on the other because playing chess develops your skills at being able to create strategies multiple steps ahead. And the better a chess player is, the better the negotiator there is. And so I would say, yeah, clearly Putin, he's a statesman. And he's so far managed to checkmate pretty much everything Trump has been trying to do in terms of foreign policy, although actually it's John Bolton's foreign policy.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
All right, we'll let you go. Getting on back to the economy, there's an interesting article in Russia Today, and it's basically saying it's been 75 years since D-Day. Okay? And they're saying, is it time Germany liberated itself from the United States? And the point of this article is that the United States is pressuring Germany to act against its own economic interests in order to serve the interests of U.S. corporations. And Wolfgang Kubicki, deputy leader of the opposition Free Democrats Party, called last week for the U.S. ambassador to Germany to be expelled for acting like a high commissioner of an occupying power, which apparently is exactly how he has been acting. Just trying to demand that Germany shift its economy to favor U.S. corporations. And certainly don't you dare do business with those Russians. Don't you dare do business with those Russians. Meanwhile, at the upcoming St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, Russian President Putin has said he may hold a separate meeting with representatives of the British business community within the framework of this economic forum. And he said this was a request from the British business people. In other words, Russia is going to start making deals with Great Britain following Brexit. So all this talk about a no-deal Brexit and, oh, it'll be terrible, Britain will be cast off, they won't have trade deals with anybody. No, as soon as Britain is free of Europe, all kinds of nations are going to want to make deals with Great Britain. It's all this doomsaying that's been going on here. There is a major homeless crisis in California. It's turning into a third world country. That is certainly very true. And by the way, we have a video on the front page of whatreallyhappened.com. Seattle is dying. It's an hour long, but it is a really telling portrait of what this country has become. And having lived in Seattle, I'm sorry to see the deterioration. We'll be right back after these few words.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations, A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Here we're talking about the economic news. And the reality is that Wall Street, the money junkies in general, have sort of gotten themselves into a corner with all this market rigging. And the market's closed slightly up today so that the politicians can say, hey, the economy's great. Look at the stock market. If you're homeless and hungry and you can't afford medical care or anything like that, well, it's obviously something you're doing wrong. But the central banks are now in a bad corner. If they lower the rates, they cause a dollar panic. If they increase the rates, they crash the markets. They've got no place to maneuver and no way to fix it because they've been providing all this cheap money to keep the stock market propped up. And if that cheap money goes away, the market will crash. We've seen that happen before when they tried to raise rates. So it's a bit of a mess over there. All right, let's talk immigration, migration. Right now, according to the Department of Homeland Security, right now, border crossings are reaching an average of 4,100 migrants each day. Apparently, that's a new record. It's a decade-long record. The problem is getting worse. According to the Border Patrol, something like 25,000 migrants were able to evade apprehension after crossing the border from Mexico into South Texas. Now, Border Patrol apprehended 120,000. So they're saying they've apprehended people from 44 different countries. It's not just Mexicans coming in. It's not just Central Americans. Apparently, Middle East, Southeast Asia, Yemen, Iraq, Pakistan, Iran. How many of them are potential terrorists? See, this is where the House Armed Services Committee has got it wrong. This is an issue of national defense. The United States is waging war on all of these countries, and yet we're leaving our southern border wide open for a retaliation. How is this not an issue where the Pentagon can step on in and fortify that border? That's what I would like to know. Plus, along with all the diseases being brought into this country, diseases that were once eradicated inside the United States. It's a health crisis. The U.S. is projected to add 1.5 million illegal aliens to the population this year. And this is a disaster waiting to happen because you've got these massive food shortages that they're going to hit in the coming months from all the flooding in the Midwest, the flooded farm fields that will not grow crops, the drowned calves who will not grow up to be beef cattle, the grain silos that have collapsed or been flooded. There's going to be food shortages, and the Democrats are just welcoming these hungry mouths over the border because they'll vote Democratic. So all these people coming across the border, these are the people you will be fighting with over an ear of corn at the supermarket. I predict there's actually going to be food riots in this country because of this misguided policies. I mean, anybody who was looking at all the snow that we got this last winter had to know it was going to be a major flood season. And apparently nobody thought of saying, let's make sure the levees are going to hold up, or maybe even bolster them, build them higher. No. Governing is choosing. Governing is prioritizing. And we need to spend that money on bombs and bullets and feeding those illegal immigrants and, of course, supporting Israel. Okay, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, apparently having shot the bolt on Green New Deal, is now basically expressing her horror at the hundreds of migrant families trapped in a parking lot at the border. And it is horrendous conditions. But you know something? Whose choice was it to come across that border illegally? But she's making a big deal about those poor families and those poor children. And I wish she would express that kind of concern about our homeless veterans or those poor children who are being aborted at the moment of their birth. Alexandria needs to watch that video, Seattle is Dying. We have problems in this country without importing the problems of the third world in on top of them, which is exactly what's going on. Of course, the good news is that she came on out and said that, yes, it is a crisis. So Alexandria just accidentally admitted there is a national emergency at the border, validating Trump's declaration. We got to take another break for commercials. We got a caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. We're going to go to the phones now to David in West Virginia. Aloha, David. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, in the first place, I'd just like to thank you for what really happened.
Thank you.
I've been a listener or a reader since shortly after 9/11, and it's been good all the way. Talking about immigration, though, I had to laugh here recently with Joe Biden criticizing white man's culture here in the United States. And I wonder if Mr. Biden has noticed what percentage of the world seems to want to get to this white man's culture.
That's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. If we're such, if white people are so bad, why does everybody want to be like them?
Well, exactly. And well, I don't see a huge migration south to Nicaragua and so forth. And as far as it goes over in Europe, I don't see a huge migration south over the Mediterranean from Europe to Africa.
Nope.
But so something I'd like to say, if I got time here, I'm not sure how much time I got. But
you got lots of time.
My brain tends to think in metaphors and analogies, and I would like to do an analogy here that's going to upset a lot of people because of the comparison I'm using. And in the first place, I would like to point out that I realize humans are not cats. Ideally, I think we should care more about a human life than a cat's life.
I agree.
But the point, but there's a principle here I'm trying to make, and I would like to use cats as a metaphor for humans. We read stories often in the news about what are usually called crazy cat ladies. And I apologize for the sexism there. I suppose there are guys that do it. But usually when it shows up in the news, it's some woman that's decided she can't stand seeing hungry cats.
Yes.
Wandering around her house. So she feels the need to feed all of them. And then it's 1, and then 5, and then 10, and now she's got 50 or 75. She can't afford to feed herself. The house smells like cat litter. The cats are sick and hungry and so forth and so on. I don't have a problem with her. I feel sorry for her. I don't feel like she's a bad person. I get it. It's bad to see animals suffer. But obviously, from the stories about crazy cat ladies, you can take it too far.
Exactly.
And for instance, if she herself has children, or just feeding herself, but if her children are now going hungry because she's trying to feed all these cats, that to me is a problem.
Yeah, well, I think that's actually an excellent analogy. The United States has limited immigration and exercises control over who's allowed into the country in terms of their skill set, making sure they're not criminals or terrorists. But just opening up the borders, you're right. It's the crazy cat lady story all over again. And as far as running out of food, that could happen really, really soon because of what's going on with the Midwest. And don't forget, Fukushima has already toxified the Pacific Ocean. They're admitting that radiation is already up in the Alaskan fishing waters now. The Gulf oil disaster toxified the Gulf of Mexico. We're seeing all these sources of food for humans being destroyed. And again, all these hungry mouths just stepping across the border.
And that's exactly my point. I feel bad about the cats, but if it comes down to the woman's children versus the cats have to starve, well, I'm sorry, cats. Her children come first.
I'm in agreement. And I think that's why, people were so outraged when Trump was campaigning with, America First and Make America Great Again, because it flies in the face of this whole globalist agenda of just, flooding Europe and the United States with all these other people. But you're absolutely right. We have to make America for Americans, for the legal American citizens, and just stop all this nonsense of flooding in illegal immigrants who will be induced to vote Democratic. so that they can basically stage another coup d'etat in 2020.
Well, I agree. And beyond that, there's just the whole population thing that, well, here in West Virginia, I don't know if you're aware, but West Virginia not only loses population every census, we lose more population than any other state. And our newspapers run editorials about what a crisis this is and how do we induce people to move into West Virginia. And my attitude is, what's the problem? You know, I wouldn't mind if another million people moved out and I got more space for myself. But
well, from the point of view of the
world,
government, of course, it's tax revenue. They're losing tax revenue. You know, governments love lots of populations, assuming they're fully employed, because that means more money for them.
Well, I agree. And I used to live in Florida. And just to give you, for instance, of the problem with population, Florida periodically has water shortages, like California does.
Yep.
And I was reading a article one time, and it said that on average, when you consider infrastructure and everything else, people require 200 gallons of water a day.
Yes.
Okay? And this same article said every day 1,000 people move into Florida. Now, that means whatever Florida had yesterday, they need all that today, and another 200,000 gallons of water. And tomorrow they'll need another 200,000 gallons of water on top of what they needed today. And the world population, when I was born, I'm older, but when I was born, the world population was about 3 billion people. Okay, now we're up to 7.
Yes.
And at some point, the metaphor I've used throughout a long time is when it gets to the point where a woman in Kansas has a baby and someone falls off each coast into the Atlantic and Pacific, okay, obviously we've reached capacity. But the truth is, it takes more than that because we have to generate food, we have to dispose of waste.
Yes.
So every person needs, 1 acre, 5 acres, 10 acres on average. Now, at some point, you reach that point. And at some point, the world will reach that point. And to me, the United States, they talk about West Virginia like it's a crisis. Well, West Virginia isn't growing. The United States isn't growing. And great. You know, again, when I was born, our population was about 200 million. And to me, that was good. The 50s were a good time. And at some point, you just reach capacity. And as the United States, let's say, for instance, that this is a good policy and we've done it for whatever reason, whether it's the economy causing people to have less babies or people just deciding I want more time for myself, whatever. We have quit growing, and now we're saying now we have to import all these people.
Well, here's where it breaks down. Why do we need to import all these people? We have 100 million Americans who've not been able to find jobs in months or years. You know, why aren't we working at getting our economy back on track? I mean, this nation is just headed, to me, to an obvious collapse, and every day I'm seeing more and more signs of it. But again, the biggest problem, in fact, if I'm right, if we're going to see actual food riots, you know, where you have the legal American citizens and the illegal immigrants fighting each other at the supermarkets over the last scrap of bread, that could be the beginning of the collapse.
Well, food, housing, just space in general. And the point I'm trying to get to is, if we're doing what's responsible by not growing, okay, now you've got these other countries that seem to, use the slur here, breed like rabbits. And they can't feed themselves, but they're having Well, they point out birth rates.
Now
Okay,
you hit a good point there, because we've had for years all of these population control people saying that we need to stop the population growth so we can sustain our standard of living, and they were right. And the American people, the birth rate is basically at replacement levels. And part of that may be the economy, part of it might unfortunately be the epicite gene, but we're losing our standard of living anyway because of that mass of people coming across the open southern border.
Well, exactly, and it will only get worse. And again, this is, to me, is the same thing's happening in Europe. People are going to want to move to where life is good.
Yes,
I get it, and to the extent we are responsible, to the extent we limit our reproduction, okay, our quality of life is better here. So all the people, I don't know how people generally feel about Trump, but all the people from the S-hole countries, of course they want to move here. And if I did, if I lived there, I would want to move here too. But the point is, okay, so we're going to equalize things to where our country is they will stop wanting to move here when our country is as bad as theirs is.
That's exactly right. I knew that's where you were going, and that's it. When you import the third world problems into your country, you become third world, and that is exactly what's happening. The United States, that was once the greatest nation on earth, it doesn't exist anymore.
Personally, I would like to stay better.
So would I, and I'm in agreement with you about the cat analogy. I feel bad for people in other countries that are not doing all that well, but I want America to be for the American people first and foremost. And it's not racist to say that, because illegal is not a race. Anyway, David, got to let you go. Got to get back to the news here. Thank you for the phone call. And here we go. All right. Over in Great Britain, as you know, earlier this week, the Parliament changed the rules where they could vote on what they call these incremental votes on various issues. And apparently there were 8 different Brexit proposals that got voted down in the House of Commons, including a second referendum and no deal. So right now it's just totally in chaos, but at least there's not going to be a second referendum for them to rig. Richard Littlejohn is out there saying that Mrs. May has broken Brexit. Now Brexit has broken her. It does appear to be absolutely true. Theresa May has now told Tory members of Parliament she will step down once her deal is passed, but before the next stage of Brexit negotiations with Europe. I think they ought to just go for the no-deal Brexit myself. I really, really do. All right, so let's talk about the Boeing 737 MAX, because more and more people are looking at the decision processes, this decision-making process that went into that aircraft. And right now, Boeing was feeling the pressure from Airbus, and Airbus had a new aircraft out, and to compete with it, Boeing management, rather than create a new aircraft, just said, we're going to tool up the 737. We're going to hot rod it is what they're going to do. And what they did is they put on these, what are called LEAF engines that are more fuel efficient. They're also a lot larger, and so they had to move the engines forward of the wing on the pylons, as well as lengthen the nose landing gear. It was a hack. They basically hacked the situation. And the result was the aerodynamics of the aircraft changed. And the biggest problem was, during a high angle of attack, you have these huge nacelles out there in the airstream, and they're being pushed up. They're acting like canards. And that's one of the things that made the 737 MAX unstable. And Boeing tried to fix it with this software system called MCAS. And basically, critics are saying the engine replacement or the engine placement made the 737 MAX series a fundamentally different aircraft with different handling characteristics, requiring new operational software and pilot training. The recertification process Boeing sought to avoid for competitive reasons would have been lengthy and expensive. So essentially, Boeing's response to the challenge posed by Airbus was bumping passenger safety to a middle seat in economy class, while financial considerations were upgraded to first class. They may be in trouble over there. And of course, the aircraft are all grounded, and it's a mess. And it's a black eye for American industry again. It's sending the message around the world. America does not make the best products anymore. Boeing used to be considered the best in the world. Everybody wanted Boeing. Now it's Airbus. Airbus makes nice aircraft. I've been on them. Okay, let's get into political correctness. Over at Harvard University, they're going to remove portraits of one of its former university presidents, Abbott Lawrence Lowell, from a building named after him on campus, as two incoming faculty deans are saying students should not have to see photos of the former president while eating their Cheerios, because Lowell, who was president from 1909 to 1933, has been deemed racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, and xenophobic, and we shouldn't have to look at that guy. We're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting...
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And I just got an email from somebody saying that they agree with that caller about the analogy of the crazy cat ladies and comparing it to the flood of illegal immigrants coming over the border. And it says in it, that she's an animal lover with 2 cats, 1 dog. And there are feral cats all around her neighborhood, and it's sad to see. And she's found out that some of them actually do have homes. The owners simply let them out to fend for themselves, to go for the mice. Here on Hawaii, we do have a huge feral cat problem, and it goes all the way back to the days of the whaling ships, when the ship's mousers would get on shore and do what cats do. And so all over the Hawaiian Islands, especially out on Kauai, you will see these cats, and they look like house cats. Calicos, grays, whatever. They're not house cats. They are wild animals. So if you come to Hawaii and you see one of those cats, don't approach it, don't try and pet it or pick it up. You will get a very nasty, nasty response. Okay. Getting on back to the world of political correctness. Over in Great Britain, a Catholic journalist is being criminally investigated for using the wrong gender pronoun in a tweet. I mean, this is literally the police. Apparently, they have nothing better to be doing. They're investigating this Carolyn Farrow for misgendering someone in a tweet. And apparently, this followed an appearance on Good Morning Britain in which she engaged in a debate with a transgender activist who has a trans child. And I get really leery about that because I think these children, they're being brainwashed into it. We're talking about kids who are really too young to know their own sexuality yet. So apparently Farrow allegedly referred to the trans child by the wrong pronoun. And the British police are now dedicated entirely to fighting perceived and imagined microaggression on social media. The world has gone insane. All right, a little bit of good news. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos has launched an investigation into the colleges and universities that were named in the college admissions bribery scandal. And apparently some more of those teachers and coaches are in court again today. So several big name universities were included in the report, including the University of Southern California, Georgetown, Yale, Wake Forest University, the University of Texas at Austin, and Stanford. This is a black eye for all of those universities. It is a black eye for higher education in general. All right. Got to take a break for station identification. We'll be right back.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And somebody, one of our members at What Really Happened, just posted this link to a video from Fox News. It's basically Trump's interview with Sean Hannity. And apparently at one point in there, Trump says that he wants to put in paper ballot backups and other safeguards for the 2020 election. Well, by golly, you'd better do so. But again, you're going to run into resistance from those state election commissions. Because when Trump first took office, he had an election integrity commission that was going on out to try and sort out this mess. And every one of these states they went into, the state election commissions were saying, no, you can't look at it. You can't study what we're doing. You know, it's an incursion. We have to have the, it's states' rights versus federal government rights here. So they're going to do that one. Oh, apparently Jussie Smollett is nominated for an NAACP award. Oh, and by the way, I understand the city of Chicago wants Smollett to reimburse them the $130,000 they spent on the investigation into his phony hate crime. You watch. Jussie Smollett will be on the platform for the Democratic National Convention. I'm predicting that. I'm going to wager a whole tarnished nickel on that. Okay, so let's see. Getting on to the world of computers here. Apparently there is a bill introduced in the Congress called the Save the Internet Act, a bill which would restore net neutrality rules. Polls are showing 80% of Americans support reinstating net neutrality. And yeah, that would be a really, really good thing. The internet should not be yet another part of our society where the rich get better treatment than the rest of us. Now, there's a new scam that's out there, and it's called virtual kidnapping. And the way it works is that hackers will get hold of the information on somebody's telephone and use it to call a family member, and then they'll call the family they'll call a family member and say, we have kidnapped your son, your daughter. And of course, the family member looking at the caller ID is going to see that it is the phone belonging to the person that supposedly has been kidnapped. And so they'll panic, they'll pay the ransom, and then it turns out that nobody had been kidnapped at all. It was all a fake. It was all a scam. But apparently, this is the latest in a long line of abuses of our high technology. So please be wary of that. Apparently, bank scam cases have doubled in just 1 year as conmen trick 84,000 savers into handing over 350 million pounds. And apparently there are call rooms in India that pose as British tax officials, and they call up British subjects and say, you have an outstanding tax bill, and you will be arrested if you don't pay up immediately. In other cases, the fraudsters pose as legitimate companies or organizations such as the victim's bank, telecom provider, solicitor, even the police. Right now, scam calls make up about 40% of all telephone traffic. And you would think that somebody somewhere, at least in the FTC, would be saying it's time to basically rein this in. Everyone's always talking about the wild, wild west here in the independent media and the internet, but just look at what's going on over in the phones. You know, I get all these phone solicitations all the time, and I'm on the do not call list. That's not being enforced. And if you go over to the FTC, there's a page where you can fill out saying, this person called me even though I'm on the do not call list. I filled it out several times. Nothing happens. Okay. Article coming out of the Daily Mail. Facial recognition technology means you could soon be banned from going into shops anywhere in the world, even if you've done nothing wrong. This is coming from civil liberties experts. And they're saying the law needs to change as quickly as the technology is. Now, from my perspective, part of the problem is the technology isn't really robust. There's still a high degree of false positives with facial recognition technology. And people who don't want to be recognized, they know how to get around it with very subtle makeup on their face or with those little hats with the LEDs in them. Okay, over in South Korea, 4 individuals have been arrested. Apparently, they were secretly recording, live streaming, and selling spy cam videos of 1,600 motel guests between November 24th of last year and March 2nd. And they're facing 5 years in jail. So apparently they used a setup of wireless IP cameras hidden in 42 motel rooms at 30 motels in 10 cities. And basically just got all this amateur porn here. That's tacky. That is just tacky. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates just now rejoining our network here. There is a new spam email campaign. This one pretends to be from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, warning about a new flu pandemic. And attached to the emails is a malicious attachment that, when opened, will install the Gand Crab ransomware on your computers. Now, this was first discovered by My Online Security. These emails are being sent from email addresses that are impersonating the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and have a subject line of flu pandemic warning. Please read the attached document to help prevent that from spreading. Now, there's a little bit of good news out there, and it's called DMARC. Right now, the operators of email servers are trying to deal with spoofed domains and spam. And there are 3 systems in place. One is called SPF, the second one is DKIM, and the new one is called DMARC. And you need to make sure that whoever is your email provider has implemented those properly. And it's a headache to set up. I had to set it all up for one of our domains because, unfortunately, Spectrum, which now owns the Roadrunner system, has yet to install DMARC. And unfortunately, if you're going from a non-DMARC system to a DMARC system, chances are your email's going to bounce, and that's a major headache. We've had a lot of problems with bounced emails lately. And it's another example of there's a problem out there. The government doesn't want to do anything about it. The industry tries to solve the problem and just makes life much more difficult for us end users. And no doubt the spammers and hackers are already trying to figure out a way around all this stuff. Now, a lot of people are talking about this new European copyright directive, and there's a bit of a stink about that already because apparently some of the members of the European Parliament are saying they misvoted and they wanted their votes reversed, which would have basically allowed them to vote individually on Articles 11 and 13. But the European Parliament is saying, no, the votes stand as they are. You're not allowed to change your mind. So Article 13 is the one that deals with copyright information that could affect the creation of memes, where you'll take a picture and you'll add a caption to it, and it's a harmless little bit of commentary, but that's now considered a copyright violation in Europe, for which the major social media like Facebook and YouTube and Google can be held financially accountable. So Article 11, of course, has to do with more of the copyright enforcement here. And one of the problems that is in the current system is creators of all kinds could fraudulently re-upload their own material and then sue YouTube for allowing it to happen, because the user who uploaded it is now anonymous and off the hook. And YouTube and others are now essentially the fall guy for this ridiculous DRM experiment. And they've opened the floodgates for all kinds of people to commit all kinds of fraud at the expense of their fellows for a little greedy profit. Some people are saying this could actually destroy YouTube. Now, all these social media platforms have 2 years to move any content that originates from within the EU to servers elsewhere. Now, how much that affects those of us in the rest of the world is yet to be seen. But it's a bad piece of legislation. And I understand there's a lot of content theft out there. Claire's first album, our computer got hacked into. They copied off all our music files to a server in China. For all we know, there's a Chinese version of I Love Sanctuary floating around over there. So it is a problem. But bad laws do not fix bad problems. Good laws plus good technology fix bad problems. Over at Twitter, there was a user, Elon Bachman, who got suspended for tweeting out statistics on autopilot and Tesla-related deaths. And this was in response to a tweet by Elon Musk about Tesla's autopilot feature, where Elon Bachman basically came back and said, these are the stats. Twitter banned him. So now complaining about bad products gets you banned on social media. Now, the good news is there was a lot of blowback from this, and Twitter has reinstated the account. But I mean, that's where social media is going. Social media is going to be worth absolutely nothing except funny cat videos. You can't talk about conservative politics. You can't offend anybody. And now you can't criticize products. That, for me, that makes social media pretty much useless. Now, here's another issue. This is coming from Huffington Post. And it basically raises the issue that some of the Wikipedia editors, and by the way, supposedly anybody can get on in there, but there are people who consider themselves full-time Wikipedia editors, they are being paid to alter material. And they're picking out this one guy, Wikipedia editor Ed Sussman, was paid by media clients such as NBC and Axios to diminish critical material. And editors operating in a similar manner have worked on behalf of CNN contributor Hillary Rosen and the CEOs of Reddit and Intel, among other clients. Now, other conduct by Sussman not covered by the Huffington Post shows him authoring puff pieces for NBC executives and getting his proposed changes approved by another paid Wikipedia editor. Now, Wikipedia has a lot of good technical information in it, but we know that Wikipedia is subject to editing for political reasons, and we know that because of the way they treated me years ago, and also because when this human-caused global warming issue first came on up, Wikipedia posts about the medieval and Roman warming periods were being edited to de-emphasize them, to say, oh, it wasn't that big a deal. And they were caught doing that. Those edits were being done by people who were part of this whole global warming hoax. So Wikipedia, unfortunately, is not the trustworthy source of information a lot of people think it is, especially if you get into anything that involves controversy. Another little scandal. This one came out a few days ago here. Apparently, Facebook has disclosed the passwords of hundreds of millions of Facebook and Instagram users were stored in plain text for years on their internal data storage systems, which meant that Facebook employees could access these passwords and access your pages. Now, they're emphasizing these passwords were never visible to anyone outside of Facebook, and they're saying they found no evidence to date that anyone internally abused or improperly accessed them. Sure. But they're going to notify hundreds of millions of Facebook Lite users, tens of millions of other Facebook users, tens of thousands of Instagram users to basically change their passwords. Facebook is still in trouble because Facebook allegedly knew about the Cambridge Analytica data practices months before the media exposed the scandal. This is from court filings in the case. Now, the scandal was exposed by The Guardian in 2015, and it revealed that Cambridge Analytica had managed to obtain data on millions of Facebook users in Great Britain, the United States, and beyond, made possible through improper sharing practices conducted between an app developer and the company. They were basically stealing the information. And a lot of that data stolen from users in the United States, of course, wound up being part of voter databases in the 2016 elections. Now, Facebook is banning a lot of people. They're banning the anti-vaxxers. They're banning conservatives left and right here. Oddly enough, and this is according to The Independent in Great Britain, neo-Nazi groups are being allowed to remain on Facebook because Facebook has found they do not violate its community standards. So pages operated by factions of international white supremacist organizations, including Combat 18 and the Misanthropic Division, were reported, but Facebook refused to remove the content and told researchers simply to unfollow the pages if you find them offensive. Well, that last part is actually good advice. Instead of having social media try and decide what we should see, let's go back to a free and open social media. And if anybody's on social media and they see something they don't like, just unfollow or go to another page. This idea that social media is going to protect you from having your little feelings hurt, that's ridiculous, because you're going to be fed what Facebook and YouTube and Google and Twitter want you to see. And that's propaganda. That's how propaganda works. So the neo-Nazis get to stay. But if you are a conservative or concerned about vaccines, you're out of here. Which reminds me, today is the start of baseball season. So get on out there and start shooting those baseballs. Google has been hit with yet another European Union antitrust fine. The grand total now comes to 8.2 billion with a B euros. And essentially for years, Google did not allow its AdSense customers to feature rival search engines on their sites. So basically, Google was involved in antitrust activity. And there's a lot of other stuff going on. There's another one apparently involving racism in advertising. I saw that one flash by on the Fox news crawl here. YouTube is becoming more and more politically correct, and YouTube platform is, of course, very powerful and influential, and so politicians and the corporate media are pressuring it to become family friendly. which means no conservatives. And yeah, we're going to have all these videos about the LGBTQ movement because that's family friendly here. Apparently, there's a growing problem with insurance companies investigating you on social media before determining whether they will issue you a policy or what they'll charge you for it. And so you need to be careful. Apparently, they're looking for photos of you driving a motorcycle without a helmet, or posting pictures of you drinking or smoking. So you got to keep your private life private. Anyway, we got to take another break for commercials. We will be right back.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. By Christine, great for heart palpitations. By Anne, before I started using this product, every afternoon my ankles and my hands would be swollen. That doesn't happen anymore. So if that part of their advertising is true, I have to assume that the rest of it is also. Not to mention that when I had my yearly blood test, only a few weeks after beginning to use this product, my cholesterol had dropped over 30 points. I'm going to continue to take it. By Croc, I love this product. It really works. By Brad, works great, thank you. Tell us your story. Get your Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, out in Chandler, Arizona, the cops broke through the door of a family's home in the middle of the night. It was a SWAT team raid. They stormed in, pointed their guns, handcuffed the father. And was it a drug raid? No. Were there terrorists inside? No. Basically, this was all about a 2-year-old child who had been feeling ill during the day, and the mother had called the doctor, and the doctor said, well, if he doesn't get better, bring him into the hospital. Well, the child started getting better. The fever was going down, and the mother decided she wasn't going to take the trip to the hospital. And apparently somebody at the hospital literally called Department of Child Safety, who have now taken custody of all 3 of the kids. Talk about living in a dictatorship. Now, what this is all about, of course, is the money. Because the more children these Department of Children's Safety or Child Safety or Child Protective Services, the more kids they can grab, the more money they get. So it's like witch hunters. They see witches everywhere because they get paid to. People who work in child protective services, they see child abuse and child endangerment everywhere because they get paid to. Over at GoFundMe, they have now started to ban anti-vaxxers. And this is coming from the Daily Beast, and GoFundMe is saying, well, they're spreading dangerous information. It's very, very dangerous information. They can't do that. Apparently, United Parcel Service is preparing to test a service which will dispatch nurses to vaccinate adults in their home. This is coming from Reuters. And UPS is not saying which vaccines would be used in the project, but vaccine manufacturer Merck & Co. told Reuters it was exploring the partnership. Now, the project shows how UPS is targeting a larger slice of the $85 billion outsourced healthcare logistics market. Currently, DHL Group dominates the market. Apparently, they're already doing this. The truck shows up, here, you need a vaccine. It's insane. It's just absolutely insane. And the more they vaccinate people, the sicker and sicker we get. Over in Rockland County, New York, they declared a state of emergency. They have 151 people diagnosed with measles. And as a result, they basically banned all unvaccinated kids from all public places for 30 days. So I guess along with everything else, now you have to carry your vaccine record. Your papers, please. I must see your papers. Oh, there's your driver's license, your social security, your passport, your vaccination record. It's just getting out of control. Now, here's the question I have. How many of these 151 people who've been diagnosed with measles had the MMR vaccine? And how many illegal immigrants with measles made it to Rockland County, New York? And this is where it gets real. Just when you think it can't get any more bizarre. Pardon me. Apparently, there is now a vaccine schedule for your dog. And this story coming out of groompropos.com is talking about how dog groomers can be fined $1,000 if they don't check the dog's vaccination record first. Next, it'll be the cats. Then it'll be the goldfish. Money, 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 money. Now, here's a story out of naturalnews.com that really says what's going on. The world's elite are trying to wipe out all knowledge and use of natural cures in order to keep us dependent on corporate-produced treatments and medications. Notice I didn't include cures there. Goldman Sachs said, curing patients is a bad business model. Treatment, 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 money, 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 money. And there is this campaign out there. Doctors or scientists who attempt to peer review natural remedies are being stripped of their medical license or research funding by the AMA and Big Pharma. At least half of all clinical trials have never been reported because when the natural cures are proven to work, the results are removed or skewed in favor of commercial medicine. It's all set up to profit. And what's interesting in this article is they point out the world's elite are all using these natural cures because they know they work. There's still a big debate going on over kratom about how scary it is. And you would think that in the middle of this opioid crisis, that something that allows people to deal with pain that is not quite as addicting would be welcome. But no, it threatens big pharma profits. We can't have that here. We'll be right back after these commercials.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home, and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse, and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Now, apparently there was a lawsuit regarding the blood thinner Xarelto, and Bayer AG and Johnson & Johnson have agreed to settle more than 25,000 U.S. lawsuits over this blood thinner for a total of $775 million. And the amount will be shared equally between the two companies that jointly developed the drug. Now, under this agreement, Bayer and Johnson & Johnson do not admit liability under the agreement. In other words, we're going to pay the money, but nobody gets to say that we messed this up. And this settlement will resolve all pending lawsuits over Xarelto, where plaintiffs claim causes uncontrollable and irreversible bleeding, leading to severe injuries and even death among thousands of plaintiffs. You got to be careful about those blood thinners. When my father was dealing with his medical emergency, they put him on blood thinners, and he just had a bad case of internal bleeding. Okay, over in Oklahoma, Purdue Pharmaceuticals, Purdue Pharma, that's what they call themselves, the maker of OxyContin, has agreed to pay over $200 million to settle the lawsuit brought by the Oklahoma Attorney General. And they were sued for aggressively marketing the opioid painkiller and helping to fuel this drug epidemic that left thousands of people dead in the state. Now, other drug makers have been named in the suit as well. It's unknown if they're going to follow the lead for an out-of-court settlement. Probably they will. And I guess that's why they're shoving vaccines at us. They need to cover the lawsuits. Oh, we lost another lawsuit. Quick, get vaccines out there for parakeets. This one is going to anger the PC social justice warrior types. This is from the Daily Mail. And apparently researchers claim to have found that the differences that exist between men's and women's brains starts in the womb. Now, this conclusion is going to be controversial because some experts claim social influences are more important. This is the old nature versus nurture. And again, it goes back to Margaret Mead, coming of age in Samoa, in which it was claimed she proved that environment only determined your behavior and your thoughts. Of course, the book was a complete intellectual fraud here. But the scientists did brain scans of 118 fetuses in the second half of pregnancy to analyze the links between gender and the connectivity of a developing brain. The differences are definitely biological. Okay, we're going to take a phone call now from Jim in New York. Aloha, Jim. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Mike. You know, yesterday you mentioned the movie They Live.
Yes.
You know, whenever I see Mike Pence, that's what I think of. I think of the politician giving the speech. You know, the guy, there's something so robotic and phony about him. Maybe it's just me, but you know, he poses as a pious Christian patriot, and at the same time, he's the point man for the Venezuelan operation, if you will. I just, whenever I see Pence, I think of the movie that you mentioned, They Live.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, either Mike Pence is a total fraud regarding his Christian faith, or he has somehow convinced himself that, you know, God wants him to go on in and smash up Venezuela. And people who are in those kind of positions, they're capable of a great deal of self-deception and justification. They don't want to see themselves as a bad person. They want to see themselves as a good person. And they don't want to be reminded about the harm that they've caused. Remember Madeleine Albright, not Madeleine Albright, Barbara Bush, when she was being told how many people had died as a result of the Iraq War, and she said, "Why should I, bother my beautiful brain with things like that?"
Well, I mean, the Bush family. I mean, to me, the Bush. W. Bush is so far the greatest mass murderer of the 21st century, George W.
Yep.
You know, so I just can't get these Christians, you know, these John Hagee type Christians. I mean, all you have to say a few pious words about how, you know, George Bush Jr., you know, his greatest philosopher was Jesus. They all fawn and believe it. I mean, it's by your actions show
Yes.
whether or not you're a Christian, and by W. Bush's actions. Oh, my God. And they keep falling for it. These Christians, Zionist Christians, or just, I hate to say, stupid Christians. It's sad. It's sad. It's kind of pathetic that they, I hate to say it.
Well, they're being used. They don't realize it. They're being used by Israel.
Yes. Yes. Israel, of course. I don't see how you could. I don't see they're you know, they're always in Israel. They're very have hatred towards many Christians. They mock Jesus. I mean, you know, at least the Muslims, they consider Jesus a prophet. They say, peace be to him and his mother.
Yes.
Whenever you mention Jesus to a Muslim, they will say, peace be to him and his mother. Not in Israel. So.
No, in Israel, you know, there are all these reports where Christians in Israel are actually being spat on as they walk down the street.
Yes. Yes. And I don't see how the Christian Zionists, if you will, can reconcile that.
Well, the Christian Zionists are willing to go along with that kind of stuff because they're part of this group of people who honestly think that the end of the world is upon us, and by supporting Israel, they're going to hasten the return of Jesus, and then they're all going to go up to heaven, and they won't have to worry about not sinning anymore, or something like that.
Hey, you know, on a lighter note, I know you're a Monty Python fan.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember the mattress sketch?
Yes.
Don't say mattress.
Don't say
Mr.
that word.
Lambert.
Yes.
Or he puts a bag on his head.
Now I've got to get into the fish tank and sing Minna Harlech.
Yes, on YouTube you could look up the mattress sketch. Don't say mattress to Mr. Lambert.
Yep.
Well, on that note, I'll let you go. Have a good show, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Mark in North Carolina. Aloha, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, I go along with this guy about Pence, the very robotic, even more than Al Gore. You say Al Gore would look very robotic. This guy's even worse, I think. And it's also like the four-legged creature of what's his name, Pompeo and Bolton. This guy is also a Christian Zionist. These people are extremely dangerous, Mike. I'm just, watching also while I'm listening to you, I'm like watching American Vagabond on guy's name is Ryan Christian on YouTube.
Yep.
And now they're saying that the Israeli jets that attacked Syria yesterday.
Yeah.
They attacked from the held area, from the U.S. occupied area of Syria. Okay, we're playing with the devil, Mike.
Yep.
I know you're an atheist. I'm not. I believe in God, but I don't believe in him necessarily the way the what do you call the Abrahamic religions believe in him. I just believe there's a good and decent God up there, and I really don't believe he goes for this stuff. I think these people don't understand Zionism. I'm thinking more and more is something of the devil. It's not Christianity. It's not even real Judaism. It's something of the devil, and this country playing along with it. We're doing the same thing. We're doing evil, and we're going to destroy this country because of it. It's not going to. It's going to rebound on us. I really don't think a country can get away with this type of committing this kind of evil unless we do something about the leadership in this country. We do it quickly. Okay, we need to replace these people. The depressing thing is, I noticed Tulsi Gabbard is getting nowhere with her campaign. She's not even 1%. She's the only person running right now in either party that's decent, that has America's best interest, and she herself has been over there. She's a veteran. None of the others are veterans, including Trump. Trump, what do they call him? Bone Spurs, Major Bone Spur or Commander Bone Spurs there in the Vietnam War. Okay?
Yep.
This is not right, Mike. This is terrible. This country is not doing right. I believe that we're going to pay for it. We're going along with a devious, vicious little country in Israel, a parasitic, like I think it was the guy in the Blackstone Range intelligence, Jake Morfomio said, it's a form of a parasitic nation. Sucks the blood of other countries, cares nothing about these other countries, and I'm telling you, Mike, it is going to destroy it. It's going to come back and destroy it. And the Christian Zionism is just as bad. Now, we're both the fanatics. One believes Jesus is coming back, I guess, to a radioactive world, because that's what it probably would be if the U.S. and Russia really get into a full exchange. And the others, the Jews, or some of the Zionist Jews, believe that I think Rabbi Sneerson or somebody like that is going to come back and take that throne. And again, of what would be a radioactive world. These people, at the best, they're crazy. At the worst, they're evil, Mike. They've got to be stopped. We've got to expose them.
Okay, well, it's not the religion. Religion is the tool. And as I've said many times before, good people will do good things. Bad people will do bad things. Both will cite religion as their excuse.
It's not a religion, Mike. It's a cult. These are cults. That's all they are. They're big cults, but that's all basically they are. They believe in witchcraft. They believe in magic, and they're crazy. And they're going to blow. And the unfortunate thing.
Well, I believe in magic. I believe in magic. You want to see a card trick?
Yeah. But that's about it. I mean, they're these people who and they're going. And the unfortunate thing is they're in high places in this country right now, and they have their hands on the nuclear trigger. And boy, we're in trouble. Okay.
Yeah.
I only hope that Putin continues to remain rational. But how long can he remain rational? I mean, he can't just let this keep on going and going before he himself will, says, okay, let's get it on. Okay. And once that happens, that's it. We're done.
Well, the only reason we're not into it full on is that all of these world leaders, including Putin and including Trump, are well aware that they have to get the other guy to strike first so that they can play the aggrieved part and motivate their nation to war. It's like the dirty trick that Roosevelt played on the American people, where for the entire year before Pearl Harbor, he just relentlessly goaded the Japanese until finally they attacked Pearl Harbor. And then Roosevelt got up there and said, wow, what a surprise. No idea this was coming, those dastardly Japanese, and we were off into World War II. And whether we're going to see something like that again, I don't know. We've certainly seen enough false flags already. We've certainly had enough lies already. And I'm hoping that the aftermath of the collapse of the Russian collusion hoax is going to be that American people are going to be much, much more skeptical of what they're hearing from the corporate media news and from politicians in general, because skepticism is healthy. Right now, in this day and age, it's a survival trait.
Right now, it looks to me like the four-legged beast, Bolton and what's his name, Pompeo.
Yeah.
They seem to be more believers now. And they're hissing like the poisonous snakes that they are. And I'm really concerned, Mike. I really am. I've got kids and I've got grandkids, and I want them to inherit a good planet, a decent planet, not a nuclear wasteland. And so I want them to inherit a good country, to be in a good country now, not a country that's now doing the very things that that Nazi Germany did in World War II, and to a degree, the Soviet Union did afterwards. So I'm not so sure anymore about the Soviet Union. I have a feeling that we were sold a line of BS there too.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm very concerned. That's all I can say. And if anybody out there thinks I'm an anti-Semite, I'm of Jewish ancestry. Okay, so take that for where it comes from. All right. So I just not going to identify with Jews like that. Period. All right.
Okay.
These I don't know what to call them, but they're not. I don't even know to say they're not Jews. They're something out of the devil. That's what they're doing, because that's what the way Israel is acting. They're a tool of the devil. That's all they are. Syria is a good country, a decent country. Doesn't deserve that. The Palestinians don't deserve to be shot down in the streets either. Unarmed Palestinians. This is not a good country we're supporting. I'm sorry, just not. All right, that's about it, Mike. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
All right. Thanks an awful lot there. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open. We're coming up here on our last commercial break here. If you own Wise storable food products, you need to take another look at them. There's a class action lawsuit that basically says Wise Company has been misrepresenting how long consumers can survive on their long-term food kits, as well as how many people their kits actually feed. And former customers behind the lawsuit say the average adult would starve to death trying to survive on these products in the event of an actual emergency. And this is actually a problem for preppers, and I'm going to talk about it when we come back from these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield Tactical Bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. And we're talking about Wise Storable Food. There's a class action lawsuit that's been brought by customers who basically took a look at what they were buying and discovered that there had been serious misrepresentation about how much food there was, how long you could live on the storable food, how many people it could feed, and obviously with a storable food product, you want it to be there when you need it. Now, Wise Company is trying to deflect the class action suit, saying that since their customers hadn't had to use the emergency food products, no damages can be claimed. Talk about arrogance. But this is a problem in the prepper market. Now, Claire and I are preppers. We have been ever since the Northridge earthquake. And one of the things, is after we moved to Hawaii and we started, enlarging our preparations, we discovered that there is a problem, that a lot of companies selling these so-called emergency survival products, their attitude is, well, they're probably not going to use them anyway, so we can make them very cheaply. And this was brought home to me when there was this unit. I bought it at a Long's Drugs, and it was a combination radio, flashlight, solar-powered, USB charger, all in one, and it was approved by the American Red Cross, had the Red Cross right on it. Oh, okay, fine. So I bought it and I put it into one of our evac kits. Now, every 6 months, I tend to go through all of this stuff and make sure it's still good, make sure everything's still working. And I discovered that the plastic case on this flashlight unit had literally started to melt, and I hadn't even used it. So you have to be really careful and just develop the ability to just don't take somebody's word for it. Actually look at what you're buying. Is this going to hold up? Is it going to be there when I really need it to be there? And it is a problem. And I hope this Wise Company gets taken to the cleaners on this class action lawsuit. Because for people who have invested that much money in prepping, and then a disaster hits, well, as we're seeing happen all across the Midwest with the flooding, and they go to their emergency food, they go to their emergency supplies, and they find the food isn't really there. The batteries have all leaked. Equipment they thought they were going to be able to rely on, like radios, doesn't work. That's a real problem. So for you preppers out there, and for those of you thinking about being preppers out there, just buyer beware. As I mentioned earlier in the show, apparently contaminants from the Fukushima meltdown are being found in Alaska's Bering Strait. And that, of course, is going to be a big problem because there's a lot of fishing grounds up there. All right. Down in Australia, they had a hailstorm with hailstones like 3 inches in diameter, destroyed 4 million avocados in just 10 minutes. And I've seen Australian hailstorms up close. They can be very, very intense. Boy, it's almost like the universe doesn't like the human race very much anymore. All right, there's the music. Time for me to get out of here and get something useful done with the rest of the day. And we'll be back tomorrow with the lovely Lady Claire. Please stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Take what you learn here and share it with everybody that you know. Use email, paper mail, face-to-face contact. Social media is completely useless right now unless you're into funny cat videos. Feel free to copy off any of my original articles from whatreallyhappened.com or any of the original artwork I've done. Forward it on, trying to make a point. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents